I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on GBN, we're talking with a terrific author and journalist. Her name is Colleen Dolan, and she has penned a book that is just unforgettable. It is called Ghost Ship Fire. It is a powerful and heart-wrenching account of the 2016 Oakland warehouse fire that claimed 36 young lives, including her daughter, the acclaimed electronic musician Sherushi. In this gripping real-life narrative, Dolan takes readers from the terrifying night of the tragedy through the high-profile criminal trial that followed, exposing the chaos, courtroom drama, media frenzy, and the long shadow such public disasters cast over private grief. With unflinching detail and profound emotional insight, she offers a story of loss, accountability, and resilience that speaks directly to bereaved families searching for answers and understanding. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today. We thank the team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her on TV today, and we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Colleen, thank you so much for joining me here today.
And thank you for having me here today, Logan.
This story stands out in my mind. I remember when it happened. It was such a horrible tragedy. It's hard to believe it was almost a decade ago, but we're coming up on 9 years right now, right?
We are. Yes, this will be
Yeah.
the ninth anniversary on December 2nd.
Yeah. And you've got something extra special planned for the 1 decade observation. Tell us about that.
Yeah, we are. A group of the ghost ship families are getting together. We are planning to build a structure on the old warehouse site. We have the okay from artists, architects, and the developers, the Unity Council, which is a nonprofit ecumenical
Mhm.
council. Um,
Wonderful.
they're going to be building low-cost housing on the site, which is the best possible use for that site.
Absolutely. I think that's great. I think, obviously California and beyond, housing is a real crisis, and people were living in this warehouse, and that was part of the problem. For the folks at home who don't remember or don't recall what the ghost ship fire was all about, tell them what this space was and what happened that night in December 9 years ago.
Well, this was a converted warehouse. There were 25 people living downstairs in makeshift sleeping lofts, or actually more like cubbies.
Hmm.
And then upstairs, there was a performance space, and that is also where the master tenant, Derek Almena, and his family lived. Um, the night of the fire, my daughter and about 50 of her friends
Mm.
all gathered together at the event space, not knowing that it was a fire trap.
Yeah.
Um, they were there for a night of fun, expected to go home, eat pizza, have fun,
Yeah.
and they never made it out. They were trapped upstairs because there was no mitigation for a
Mhm.
fire. There were no fire alarms, no smoke detectors, no exit signs. There was one exit, and that went up in flames. So they
Yeah.
were trapped upstairs, and they were screaming for help,
Mm.
but no help ever came.
It's a nightmare. This was a warehouse. It wasn't supposed to be event space. It wasn't supposed to be people's homes. There were no exit signs, as you mentioned. There were no sprinkler systems. There were no fire alarms that were
Nothing.
needed. And like you said, just the one exit, one point of egress. And it was a complete nightmare. She was there with 50 of her friends. Did they perish as well? Did some of her other friends die too?
There were 36 deaths.
Mm.
It turns out during the trial, I learned that my daughter was safe and alive outside when the fire broke out. And as people started leaving, mostly the residents from downstairs started leaving. She had heard the word fire and
Mm.
ran inside. She told one girl, "Are you calling 911?"
Mm.
That was the first 911 call that announced the fire to the fire department. And then my daughter raced upstairs to warn her friends that there was a fire below their feet. The
Mm.
music was so loud they couldn't hear the commotion downstairs. So they were unaware of the fire. And although my daughter went upstairs to warn them of the fire, she died with them. She couldn't get
Uh,
out. She was also trapped.
I know you were part of the prosecution or, was there for the trials and so forth of the
Yeah.
people held criminally responsible for this. Did that help in your healing process at all? I know the criminal justice system can be horrible when you're a part of it. Because there is no such thing as justice when you've lost your daughter. Tell us what that was like. Was that insult to injury, or did it bring some kind of closure or solace?
It, well, the one thing I wanted to know was how and why my daughter died. And I found
Yeah.
out those terrible details during the trial.
Hmm.
That was my only solace. Most of the trial was a game.
Yeah.
Each side was exaggerating, telling lies, ignoring the people who were also responsible, the people who had visited the the warehouse in their official capacity. There were 35 official visits,
Wow.
and not one person wrote up a report to say how dangerous this place was, including Child Protective Services, who allowed the Almena's children to move back into the warehouse after they had been removed for other reasons.
Hmm.
And they saw that there were 25 adults living downstairs, unrelated to the children. They saw that there were fire hazards, and they let the children move back in. Luckily, the children were not on site
Wow.
that night. But
Thank God.
still, it makes you wonder why these people were never brought up for having some kind of responsibility for
Yeah.
for the fire occurring and for the firefighters not knowing what the structure was like.
Yeah, if you inspected it, you would think you'd have some culpability there.
Yeah,
If
you would think
you
so.
green lighted this or didn't report it or escalated further, like this needs to be investigated, you're part
Right.
of the problem. And what
I
do you
would
think
say
it
so
was? It
too.
was just some kind of crazy liberalism gone mad where they thought they were just living like hippies and leave them be?
I cannot fathom their
Yeah,
reasons, except that they, all I know is they didn't do their jobs.
yeah.
That's the only thing I know. They
They
had a
didn't do their jobs and people
responsibility.
died because of it. I mean, it's as simple as
36
that,
people.
you
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
It's it was totally preventable and should have been prevented.
Mm,
It could have been 2 weeks before the fire. There were fire inspectors who came to the door, knocked on the door because there had been so many complaints from the neighbors
mm,
that finally, the building committee sent somebody out. And because nobody answered the door, they turned away and they went back to their office and they had a clerk write a nasty letter to the owners.
all right.
Well, I'm sorry, 2 weeks later, 36 people died. Who cares about a nasty letter?
Yeah.
And the fact that 25 people lived there, somebody was inside. But when they saw uniforms, I'm sure they knew they would have been evicted had they opened the door, so they didn't.
Right.
The place was a mess.
Right. Right. Yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of shame and guilt and blame to be spread around there because everybody who knew this was going on, everybody who knew this was dangerous, everybody who inspected the place, they've got blood on their hands. It's as
I
simple as
agree.
that. And unfortunately, the justice system is so askewed. There is no justice when it comes to justice. And I always feel so sorry for people who are trying to, get justice because it doesn't exist. If somebody's taken your
It's not.
child and, you know, it's a tough situation to be in. But I think by you shining the spotlight on what happened that night is very, very important. And I imagine that was part of the motivation to write this book, right?
Absolutely. I wanted to expose the neglect and the incompetence
Hmm.
that led to this fire. It was totally preventable, but I don't want a fire, any kind of tragedy of this sort,
Yeah.
ever be allowed to happen again.
Exactly, exactly. What do you hope comes of this? Do you hope that there's reform? Do you hope that fire inspections are taken more seriously? I mean, in many jurisdictions around the U.S., there is, absolute power on the part of the fire department to come in and condemn a structure immediately. And the
Yeah.
fact that that didn't happen in this case is mind-blowing.
Well, and the fact that it hadn't been inspected in 31 years,
Huh.
and they're supposed to have biannual inspections for a place that's a low priority, like a warehouse. And this was just booked as a warehouse, not a living structure, not
Right.
an event space. And so even if it were just a warehouse, it should have been inspected every other year, which would have triggered improvements,
Hmm.
would have triggered sprinklers, which
Yeah.
sprinklers are what prevent like 90% at least
Yeah.
of all the damage and harm to human beings
Sure.
that occur in structure
Sure. That would have
fires.
dampened down the smoke. It would have kept the fire from
Absolutely.
spreading. It would have saved lives, no doubt.
It
Uh,
would have warned my daughter that the fire was as fierce as it was. I
right.
mean, when she ran into the building, there were no fire alarms sounding, no smoke alarms, with that whiny scream.
Right.
And everybody was dry and very calm when they walked out.
Yeah.
So naturally, I mean, of course, it was safe to go
Right.
in. There were no warnings.
Yeah.
And the same for the people upstairs. They had no warning. And the fire was so fast. It
Yeah.
it raged through that building so quickly because all of the building materials were makeshift, made out of wooden pallets, old doors and windows, tapestries dividing up the living spaces. I mean, everything in that place was flammable.
Yeah, everything was kindling. Everything was ready to
Everything.
ignite and and just spread like wildfire, as
Yeah.
of course it did. Have you gotten to know or gotten close to any of the ghost ship fire families that were affected
Yeah.
by the tragedy?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, there have been, well, there was one person in particular who attended the trial every day as I did. His name is David Gregory, and he held me up
Mm.
during that trial. His wife couldn't attend because she's a preschool teacher and she couldn't get the time off. But David, who was a bus mechanic, and worked the night shift, would go home, change, eat his dinner, and arrive at the courthouse at 8 o'clock every morning. So he is very important to me.
Yeah.
Also, there were a few others, Carol Sidlick, who called almost everyone in the ghost ship family
Mm.
circle, just to keep us up to date with what was happening. There are so many others, but yes,
Mm.
there's a small cadre of us right now who are working on putting together
Mm.
a memorial structure. It will be temporary next year
Mhm.
during the 10th anniversary, but after the housing is built, we will have a permanent structure in place using local artists
Yeah.
from Oakland, and I can't give you the details yet because
Sure.
we're still in the process of building
Right.
and getting permits and all of that, but it's
Yeah.
going to happen. And
Yeah.
it will be a place of solace and remembrance, not just for the ghost ship families, but for anyone who needs a place to come and be quiet.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Your daughter was incredibly talented. Tell us a little bit about Chelsea was her actual God-given
Chelsea,
name or
yeah.
birth name, and Sherushi was her stage name, basically, right?
That was her stage name. She was given that name when she was 15. She traveled to Japan on her
Mm.
own.
Wow.
She had written a letter to a Japanese music magazine
Hmm.
that was asking for pen pals. Well, in response to her letter in that magazine, she received 78 pen pal letters, and
Wow.
she would write to each one of them individually. And eventually, she studied Japanese so that she
Mm.
could go to Japan and talk to all her pen pal friends.
Wow. That's great.
They could not say her name. Chelsea was a hard one, so they called her Sherushi, and
Sherushi.
it stuck. She loved that name. So
Wonderful.
she used that for her stage name when she worked at KALX, which is a radio station at UC Berkeley.
Hmm.
She used DJ Cherushi, and
Wonderful.
that was also her stage name when she was performing live on stage.
And some of her tracks are still out there. You can listen to her music, right?
Oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
There's, Cherushi.com, but go to YouTube, look
Right.
up Cherushi, and you will see she was prolific. She spent every single day writing music, and then when she got on stage, she would shine. She loved
Wonderful.
being on stage.
Wonderful. Well, I'm glad her music shines on. I'm glad her story is illuminated in part in this book. I'm glad you've exposed some of the horrors that fell upon your family and other families that night of December in 2016. The name of the book is Ghost Ship Fire. It is a powerful and heart-wrenching account of the 2016 Oakland warehouse fire that claimed 36 young lives, including Colleen's daughter, Sherushi, who was a wonderfully talented musician. Colleen, thank you so much for joining us here today.
And thank you for having me, Logan.
I appreciate your time, your insight, the wonderful work on this book and exposing the tragedy that happened that night in December 2016. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford for the Global Book Network. So long for now.